How the Golden State Warriors could have drafted Anthony Edwards instead of James Wiseman. The Golden State Warriors are set to battle the Minnesota Timberwolves in the next round of the NBA playoffs. Golden State's Game 7 victory has set up an exciting Western Conference semifinal showdown against the Minnesota Timberwolves. This pits the Warriors against the unstoppable Anthony Edwards, brimming with confidence after eliminating LeBron James and the LA Lakers, and eager to add another, high-profile playoff victim to his resume. For Anthony Edwards, the situation also carries a personal element. Perhaps no one feels this more than the Warriors' front office, reflecting on a missed opportunity. How the Golden State Warriors could have drafted Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards was the first overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft and was selected by the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Golden State Warriors held the second overall pick and selected James Wiseman, passing on LaMelo Ball, who went third, to the Charlotte Hornets. But amid questions about Edwards, Brian Windhorst revealed in 2024 how the Minnesota Timberwolves attempted to trade their #1 pick to Golden State, which the Warriors declined, due to their focus on Wiseman. Windhorst said on the Hoop Collective podcast in 2021, going back to draft night, the Wolves were very interested in trading that pick. According to multiple reports, Minnesota made calls to several teams, including the Warriors, to see if they wanted to trade up from #2 to #1. The proposed deal would have allowed Golden State to draft Edwards while sending additional assets to the Timberwolves, who were reportedly interested in Wiseman, but also open to trading down for the right package. The Warriors' decision process, at the time, Golden State's front office was apparently split on the decision. Some executives saw Edwards' explosive scoring ability and physical tools as the perfect complement to their aging core of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Others, however, were convinced that Wiseman's size, athleticism, and potential as a rim-protecting center addressed their most glaring roster need. The Warriors had previously succeeded with a dominant center in Andrew Bogut during their first championship run, and many in the organization believed Wiseman could develop into an even more impactful version at that position. They envisioned him as the perfect lob threat for Curry, a defensive anchor, and a player who could extend the championship window of their core stars. Additionally, there were some concerns about Edwards' shot selection and defensive consistency. Coming out of Georgia, where he had shown flashes of brilliance but also stretches of inefficient play. The aftermath. Nearly 3 years later, the divergent paths of these players have become clear. Edwards has blossomed into one of the NBA's brightest young stars in the face of Minnesota's resurgence. His fearless scoring, improved playmaking, and physical defense have made him a cornerstone player who has led the Timberwolves to consecutive playoff appearances. Meanwhile, Wiseman's Warriors tenure was marred by injuries and developmental challenges. After playing just 39 games as a rookie, he missed his entire second season, recovering from a meniscus tear. The Warriors ultimately traded him to the Detroit Pistons in February 2023, effectively ending their experiment with him as their center of the future. The current matchup now, as the Warriors face the Timberwolves in the Western Conference semifinals, Edwards represents both what could have been and the primary obstacle to their championship aspirations. His combination of powerful drives, improved outside shooting, and defensive intensity makes him one of the most difficult matchup problems in the NBA. For Golden State, containing Edwards will be the primary focus of their defensive game plan. They'll likely rotate multiple defenders on him, including Jimmy Butler, whose defensive prowess and competitive edge will be tested against the young star's athleticism. The series presents a fascinating strategic and psychological matchup. Can the veteran Warriors, led by Curry, Butler, and their championship experience, overcome the explosive young talent of Edwards and the emerging Timberwolves? As this playoff battle unfolds, Warriors executives will inevitably wonder what might have been had they made a different choice on draft night in 2020. However, their focus now remains squarely on advancing to the Western Conference Finals, even if it means overcoming the very player they once had the opportunity to draft. Trade talks for Jalen begin immediately after Rockets' loss. With Kevin Durant intrigue, Jalen Green may be the focal point in Houston, with the guard being criticized for the Rockets' elimination in the first round of the playoffs. The 23-year-old was virtually invisible in the 7-game loss to the Warriors, except for a 38-point explosion in Game 2. The Rockets have an abundance of young, talented players, but they lack a veteran scoring threat who can solve the offensive, problems that plagued them throughout the season and against Golden State. Jalen Green, I think it's safe to say, needs to get ready to pack his bags, ESPN's Stephen A. Smith said Monday morning, following the Warriors' 103-89 Game 7 victory the night before. If you're the Houston Rockets, you need to be thinking about moving him. Green was limited to 55 points in the other 6 games of the series and was held to just 8 points on Sunday, as the Rockets spent most of the night bogged down on offense. You've got to be kidding me. That can't happen. Houston's offense was awful, but primarily because he couldn't do anything, Smith said about Green. If you're the Houston Rockets, you need to go after Kevin Durant. The rise of Amen Thompson has made Green feel more expendable, despite signing a 3-year, $106 million extension earlier in the season. I think the stinging part of this series is the Jalen Green conversation, said the Ringer's Ryan Russillo. When he had 38, it was like, CC, it's fine. That was the aberration. It's not like, hey, he's young and everything, but Amen clearly needs to be the priority for whatever they do with Fred VanVleet and with Dylan Brooks. So if Green is taking shot opportunities from Amen next season, that's hindering his development. Because again, Amen isn't even fully formed and just has some of his reads, his aggressiveness, his confidence, and Jalen is kind of an unpredictable guy who drives and the decisions aren't good. Phoenix would be a likely landing spot, as a trade for Durant seems inevitable, with the Suns' main trio, Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, being one of the league's biggest disappointments. Green could inject some life into an older team and add an explosive scoring option. Alongside Booker. Green's future will be one of the most intriguing NBA stories to follow this offseason. The case for moving on. The Rockets' playoff performance highlighted several concerns about Green's fit with the team's future. Despite his undeniable athletic ability and scoring talent, his inconsistency has become a major issue. In the critical Game 7, when the Rockets needed their best players to step up, Green shot just 3 of 16 from the field and looked overwhelmed by the moment. His defense also remains a work in progress, which was exposed by the Warriors' veteran backcourt. With Thompson showing potential as a two-way force and VanVleet providing steady veteran leadership, Green's role has become increasingly questionable. Houston GM Rafael Stone has assembled an impressive collection of young talent through the draft and trades, but now faces the challenge of converting some of these assets into a more cohesive team. The Rockets have significant cap flexibility and could package Green with future picks to pursue a star like Durant, whose scoring ability and championship experience would immediately accelerate their timeline. The Durant connection, the Kevin Durant angle, is particularly fascinating. At 35 years old, Durant remains one of the league's premier scorers, averaging 27.1 points on elite efficiency this season. However, the Suns' experiment with 3 high-usage stars has failed to produce the expected results, with their first-round exit to Minnesota raising serious questions about the team's construction. Phoenix may be willing to explore trading Durant to retool around Booker with younger talent. A package centered around Green, plus additional assets and picks, could appeal to the Suns as they look to remain competitive while getting younger and more athletic. For Durant, joining a rising Rockets team with promising young players like Thompson, Alperen Şengün, and Jabari Smith Jr. could offer a chance to mentor the next generation, while still competing at a high level in the Western Conference. What's next for Houston? The Rockets exceeded expectations this season under coach Ime Udoka, securing the 4th seed and pushing the experienced Warriors to 7 games. However, their playoff performance revealed the limitations of relying on young talent in high-pressure situations. If Houston does move forward with trading Green, it would represent a significant philosophical shift. Just months after signing him to a lucrative extension, they would be admitting that their backcourt of the future might instead feature Thompson and Van Vliet, with another star acquisition joining the mix. Whatever direction the Rockets choose, this offseason promises to be pivotal for a franchise that appears to be ahead of schedule in its rebuilding efforts, but still needs the right pieces to become a true contender in the loaded Western Conference.